in today's video, I'm taking it inside. I normally do my videos regarding chickens and garden and things that I do outside, but I'm taking it inside. We are hosting a party tomorrow. Todd wanted me to make these cupcakes. So I thought, why not go ahead and put it in a video? These cupcakes are his favorite. When we got married, I made all of the cupcakes. I made 17 dozen cupcakes and then a 2-tier cake for our wedding to cut. With the cupcakes, I made 4 different varieties. 2 of them had a chocolate cake and 2 of them had an almond flavor. One of the chocolates, I put filling in it, which is what I'm going to be making today. The other one I left plain. And then with the almond cupcakes, I made one with the raspberry filling and almond icing. This cupcake is the favorite of a lot of people, and this is actually Todd's favorite cupcake. He wanted me to go ahead and make this for the party. So this cupcake, I don't know if you want to call it, I don't really have a name for it. I guess you can call it a better than a ding dong cupcake. It's kind of a mix between like a ding dong flavor and one of those like Hostess cupcakes that you can buy at the store, except this is so much better. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix the batter, the cake mix, and get that in the oven. There are 2 other steps after that. I'm going to do a filling and then I'm going to ice it. With the first part of the cupcake, let's go ahead and get that started to make the batter so we can get that in the oven. This is a super easy cupcake to make. It's not any specific brand. I just happen to have these. I do like Betty Crocker. I do like the super moist chocolate cake and then some kind of a brownie package. So I'm going to use both of these in making the cupcake, and then I'm going to use 4 eggs. These are from my ladies. Then I'm going to be using coffee. The coffee that I'm using, it happens to be one of my favorite coffees that I drink all the time, which is the Gloria Jean's Butter Toffee coffee. And then I have butter. That's all it takes. It's super easy to put together. So it's 1 box each of the super moist chocolate cake, 1 box of a brownie mix, 4 eggs, 1 1/4 cups of the coffee, and 1 cup of melted butter. So let's go ahead and get that mixed up together. Okay, so I'm gonna get the box mix in. So I found a recipe online, actually the 2 recipes, one for the cake mix and then one for the filling. And I kind of tweaked the recipe a little bit in order to make it my own. Even whenever I made my wedding cupcakes, which everybody loved, everybody raved on and on about it, and people were taking cupcakes home because they were so good, I always start with a box mix. I can and I have made some recipes, like a carrot cake that I make that is to die for. That is made from scratch, but most of my cupcakes, all I do is I get a box mix and I doctor it up. I know you've probably heard where if you see water, use milk, except when I do chocolate cake. When I do chocolate cake, I'm not a huge fan of chocolate cake on its own, but if you add the coffee in place of water, and then you add the butter in place of oil, it is absolutely phenomenal. So let's go ahead. Okay, so I got the box mixes in. I'm gonna go ahead and get the coffee in. And I'll be sure to link the recipe down below if you're interested. The butter. So the eggs, how I like to crack my eggs, I always make sure I crack them one at a time. These are farm fresh eggs. You're probably fine with the grocery stores, I'm not sure, but with farm fresh eggs, you never know what you're gonna get. I do collect the eggs on a regular basis, so there shouldn't be any chicks in them. And then I always, since I garden, I always save my eggshells because calcium is fantastic for the garden. And since we have jewels, we have one rooster, since we have jewels, if I wanted to incubate these eggs, which I have, and I can link that video down below, I could take these and just put them in my incubator and I can actually make baby chicks, which I have done. But like I said, I can link that video down below if you're interested. Let me get these cleaned up. And now I'm just gonna whisk it. I'm gonna whisk this on high. I'm starting out low so all the powder mix does not get kicked all over the place. And then once it's pretty well incorporated, I'm going to put it on high for 2 straight minutes. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes since I whipped the heck out of this. I have my oven preheating at 350, that's ready to go. I'm gonna let that drip a little bit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my muffin tins and get those prepped. I'm gonna spray it with an oil so any drippings I get around the side on the edges here, it's gonna be easy to clean up. And then I'm gonna pop my cupcake liners in. These cupcake liners, sometimes I buy them on Amazon, sometimes I'll buy them from webstaurant.com. I bought a lot of stuff for our wedding since we had to buy in bulk. We had a backyard wedding here. So a lot of things had to be purchased in bulk and it was just reasonably inexpensive. And if you are getting married or you have a loved one that's getting married, honestly, you can make your own cupcakes that taste absolutely delicious. If you're interested in watching how I make my almond cupcakes, let me know and I can do a video on that. But they are just as delicious, if not more delicious, the way I bake them. Now granted, I did buy 2 of these cupcake pans because it helped speed up the process when it came time for baking. I spent a whole day baking the cupcakes and then the next day I spent a couple hours icing all the cupcakes. Like I said, it was 17 dozen cupcakes, but I honestly spent whenever we got married, I think box cake mixes were maybe like $1 a piece. And I probably spent with 17 dozen cupcakes, and I'll pop a picture up on the screen so you can see what they look like. With the 17 dozen cupcakes and my 2-tier wedding cake that I made, I probably spent honestly maybe $30 total between, I wouldn't say, I know for sure it was less than $50. It was probably somewhere between $30 and $50. That was with all the butter and everything for making the icing and the ganache, because I add ganache to the top of these cupcakes, the chocolate ones. Yeah. So I know I have priced some of the cupcakes that you can purchase, and I know if I go to the local cupcake place, I want to say the cupcakes are maybe at least $2 or $3 a cupcake. Doing it this way, it is so inexpensive. Anyways, so I ended up buying 2 of these, which is a 24 hole, so 2 dozen on each of these pans. So I'm making 4 dozen at a time. So it didn't take me a super long time. Yes, it was a chunk of time, but I said maybe a half a day I spent just baking the cake part of the cupcake. And then the next day it was probably another maybe 2, I wouldn't say it was more than 4 hours, maybe a couple hours of doing all the icing. But let me tell you, everything I made for the wedding probably would have cost me, I'm guessing, upwards of $500. It's just so expensive to buy things. My daughter's wedding is coming up next year, and I'm gonna be baking all of the cupcakes for her wedding as well. Nice. Let me go ahead and get this scooped in. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. And I just use, it's like an ice cream scoop. I think I may have bought this on Amazon too. I'll have to go back and look. If I can find where I purchased it at, I'll be sure to link it down below. But it came in a set of 3. So I think this was the biggest one of the 3. And you literally just come in and it's a perfect scoop. Just make sure you don't overfill these. I would say somewhere between a half to maybe 2/3 full is all you need to fill it, because it's going to grow. It's going to bake and rise quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get this filled. And since it was 2 boxes, it's probably going to take me 2 of these pans. It's probably going to make close to 4 dozen cupcakes. So let me go ahead and get these scooped in. I'm going to pop them in the oven at 350, and I will be baking them for somewhere between 20 to 22 minutes. I know by the touch, but anyways, let me go ahead and get that going. Okay, so I actually ended up with 3 dozen plus 1, which is going to be more than enough. We're planning on having we're guessing maybe close to 30 people tomorrow. We're not sure. We won't know until tomorrow comes and goes. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get these in the oven. Like I said, I'm going to cook them for maybe 20 to 22 minutes. And some other things we're going to be making. I'm going to be making, it's like a caramel apple drink. It's going to be in the form of a punch. And then I'm going to be making some Italian beef as well. And that I'm going to get these in. Now, sometimes when I am cooking 2 tiers like this, it might take a little bit longer. So I always know by the touch on the top what it feels like, and I might be rotating them. And let's see, we're going to do timer. We're going to start at 20 minutes, and then I'll just check on it periodically. My 20-minute timer went off. I'm just going to come in here, and I don't feel like that's done yet because it's a little too soft. Yeah, it's a little too soft, so I'm going to let it cook for probably another 3 minutes or so. So I went ahead and pulled the top one out. I know it's done because it springs back and it doesn't sink in whenever I touch it. So if you notice on some of these, they're kind of muffin top, so to speak. This one's perfect right here. This one I probably only filled halfway full. So I would advise, especially the size cupcake liners that I used, I probably only should have filled them maybe halfway full. I do have bigger cupcake liners, but I don't know. I feel like they kind of get in the way. This recipe is just, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the house smells amazing right now. So I went ahead and put the timer on for another 2 minutes, and we'll see if, and I went ahead and I popped it on the top shelf, and we'll see if that gets it done. Okay, so I went ahead and took these out. It took an additional 4 minutes, and you can see how it springs back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let them completely cool, and then I will be back and show you the next step. So this next step of making these cupcakes is making the filling. Now, I did actually find a recipe online called the homemade Hostess Cupcake filling. And I am not going to tweak this at all. I'm going to use this according to what the recipe is. I do not remember where I found this at, but this has proved to be a very good filling for this type of cupcake that I'm making. So what I have here is 1 cup of butter, 1 cup of shortening, 1 1/3 cup of evaporated milk. I'm going to pour out 4 teaspoons of vanilla, and I have 2 cups of sugar here. Just to let you know, the recipe that I'm making, I'm doubling this recipe. So that way I can make sure I have plenty of filling for the 3 dozen cupcakes that I just made. I put on the beater attachment on my KitchenAid, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to whip the butter and shortening for a minute before I add any of the other ingredients. And then I'm going to mix all these ingredients in the bowl, and I'm not going to stop mixing it for 30 minutes. So this is a little bit time consuming to do, but I'm just going to set my timer for 30 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and get this going. When I'm done, I'm going to get a pastry bag with They called for a long pastry tip, but I think I'm just going to use one of my tips that I use for icing cupcakes. So I have a nice amount of filling in each of them. Let me go ahead and get this made up and then I'll show you the next step. So real quick, I wanted to show you what this looked like right now. And then after I whip it for 30 minutes, you'll see what it looks like after. And I know this is a lot of work, but this is gonna be so worth it. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. Now I'm going to show you what we're gonna do next in terms of getting it into a piping bag. So I have my piping bag ready. I went ahead and cut a hole. This is a Wilton 1M piping tip. And I usually use it to ice my cupcakes. So I'm just gonna pop that in the bag, nothing fancy. And if you're interested, I love these huge piping bags. This is a 25-inch, and I bought it in this box. So it comes on a roll. I'll hold a key seal. So if I can find that, I'll link it down below. Anyway, so all I do is I just start filling this bag until I get all the icing in it. And look at that. Look how beautiful that is. This is an amazing filling. Trying to get everything I possibly can in there. All that deliciousness. Now, just to let you know, the flavor raw like this, it's not the best. So it's not like icing. It tastes good. But when it comes together with the chocolate cupcake, oh my gosh, it explodes in your mouth. The combination of the two, it just goes very perfectly together. So let me get a cupcake. So we're gonna start with this tray. Let me get that garlic out of the way. That's for the Italian beef that's cooking in the back. So I explained that I have a party that Todd and I are gonna be hosting tonight. And I got some Italian beef cooking in the back and it smells amazing. I have a video on that. I don't know if the cupcake video is going to come out first or if the Italian beef one will. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shove it in and do a slight squeeze. And I'm kind of supporting the tip as I'm pushing it in. And I'm just going to continue doing this until I have all these filled. Okay, so I have more than enough. One batch, honestly, probably would have been enough for these 36 cupcakes, the 3 dozen I just made. Because look at how much is left. Maybe that's an excuse for me to make more. I'm just gonna come behind, and any of these that are kind of sticking off the top, I'm just gonna kind of wipe off with my knife. And then I'll be right back and show you how I do the ganache topping. So the next step is making the ganache. So to make the ganache, I'm going to be taking a 12-ounce package of semi-sweet chocolate chips and 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. I'm going to be using this glass measuring bowl, and there is a line on here. Do a little bit more. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and microwave this for approximately 2 minutes to get it nice and hot, and I'll be right back. Okay, so there's a little bit of steam coming off that. I'm just gonna add my chocolate chips and I'm gonna stir that in. Okay, and then I'm just gonna stir this in until we have our ganache. I love the transformation it makes going from what looks like a mess to a nice smooth chocolate ganache. So let me know in the comments below if you plan on making this or if you do make it and how it turns out for you. Okay, so let me clean this up a little bit. I am going to use this platter to serve it on. Hopefully it doesn't make too big of a mess. So this cupcake is just a really rich, decadent, just absolutely delicious. I know I keep saying that, but it is so good. All right, so then what I do is I just dip it. It's that easy. And I will continue doing this until all of the cupcakes are iced. And I'm just gonna serve it right on here. I was gonna put them back in the tray, but I think it's going to be a little bit messy. So I'm gonna just leave it on the tray. But this ganache covers that center perfectly. Now what you can do is if you want to get fancy, you can get white chocolate and melt that and maybe drizzle that over the top, or you know, just whatever you would like. Just be creative. I know at our wedding, to differentiate between the cream-filled cupcakes and the not filled cupcakes, I had a chocolate mold, and my favorite symbol is a fleur-de-lis. I had these little mini fleur-de-lis molds that I made the white chocolate out of, and I prepped that well in advance so they were already cool and ready to go. Kept them in the fridge until I made the cupcakes. And then the white I'm making a mess here. So the white fleur-de-lis indicated that there was white filling on the inside, and the chocolate fleur-de-lis were just no fill. So that was one great way to differentiate between the two, so somebody wasn't surprised. I know some people do not like fillings. Like my daughter, she usually doesn't like fillings, my oldest daughter. So I'm gonna continue doing this until I have all of these done. So this is the cupcakes with the ganache topping on it. I have a couple more plates in the other room, but we are gonna sample this one and see how it tastes and what it looks like on the inside. I went ahead and picked the ugliest one because, you know, why not? Okay, so these are a little bit messy, but they look fantastic so far. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half. And this is what it looks like. Now for the taste test. Oh yeah. Super good. Super moist, super rich, not super sweet, but just the right amount of sweetness. I know that kind of looks messy. Some of the cupcakes, I don't know if you've ever filled cupcakes. Sometimes you get a little too much, sometimes you get not enough. But anyways, I think that was just the right amount because of how rich it is. Anyways, let me know in the comments below if you decide to make this and what you think of it. I hope you liked this video, and if you would like to continue following me on my journey of anything around the house. I do a lot of videos on chickens, gardens. Now that it's getting cooler out, since it's fall, I'm going to be in the kitchen a lot more often. And be sure you check out the video on the Italian beef, because that is also absolutely amazing. But this will be a nice dessert after the savory Italian beef. I appreciate you for joining me today and taking the time out of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.